Hello, friends of Passion Fruit on Air. I'm Caro, and this is the 88.5 FM. You know that in this show we talk about passions in life, and we have guests who inspire us with their stories. Maybe you know, maybe you don't know, but unfortunately, my country, Chile, is passing through a deep social crisis. A year ago, we couldn't suspect that something like this would happen in the way that it is in this moment. I'm a journalist. I'm passionate to know what is happening there. So I try to find answers. I try to find information everywhere. So YouTube, local channels, international channels. And then I found a Chilean Australian talking about different things and with a different language. When in Chile, people were talking about left and right, wrong and right, today's guest was talking about love. Love, in that atmosphere, love was a big sense. She's not a nun, she's a scientist. She's a nurse and a doctor in health informatics with a postdoctoral in the same area. She has studied her degrees in Australian universities such as RMIT University, University of Melbourne, Central Queensland University, and the last but not least, she's a Master of Law from Pontificia Universidad Catolica de Chile. She is Carol Hullin. Based on her own words, she was born in Chile in a poor family. Her ancestors were Chilean indigenous. Her grandfather was an Aymara, one of the 17 original Chilean indigenous people, and even it can sound redundant, she born as a girl. She needed more than 120 years to get out of that circle. She did it here in her 20s in Australia, decided that her future was in her hands. And if you think that I'm sharing enough about her story, no, you need to listen this one. She wants to be, and maybe she will be, the president of Chile 2030. So I don't want to tell you anymore. I love that my guests speak by themselves and tell us their story. So thank you, Carol Hullin, for accepting our invitation to today's show.
Thank you for the invitation. It's a very a special moment for me because I just spent 5 years in Chile. I returned to Australia with a lot of hopes and encouragement, and we can help from here, from Australia, to developing countries like our country, who is actually suffering for so many injustice. Especially being a girl, being poor, uneducated. As you said, it takes 2 centuries to get out of that situation. Therefore, I'm very excited. Thank you very much for the invitation. It's the first interview I do it in English. Therefore, I do apologize. My brain at the moment is gone very fast in Spanish, but definitely I've been educated in English. Therefore, I don't have no problem to explain all the living experience, concept, and all the traveling around the world, and have shown me that Australia is a great country.
Carol, tell us, how was your childhood? I explained a little bit, but to understand your process, we need to understand your childhood back in Chile.
Therefore, I was born in the 70s, where my country was basically in a dictatorship. I didn't have access to food. My parents were teenagers living in extreme poverty. However, within that poverty, material poverty, I was very enriched of a spiritual life, because since you don't have anything to eat, you don't have a stable job, you relied on family values. Therefore, even though I was in a situation very extreme, I didn't recognize that when I was born. I mean, you don't decide where you're born, but definitely I have a wonderful family. Despite not having access to water very easily, until I was 14 years old, I didn't have a house with a toilet inside. Therefore, there was a negotiation within the family members and the neighbors. I do rely a lot in social support. Therefore, I'm a girl of 3 children. I'm in the middle child. I got an oldest brother and a younger sister. Within that, the dynamics, we have about 250 relatives, direct relatives, from my father's point of view. Therefore, my surname in Spanish is Lucay, which comes from Aymara. And within that blood stream, we always knew that we're a tribe and we come out of poverty somehow. Therefore, I become an entrepreneur. Since I was 7 years old, I will sell chocolate in the streets. I will go to, my mom will make bread or empanadas. I will go to the streets to sell it. Thank God, we basically showing those value system not to go stealing to people. Basically, we will sell empanadas or food to make sure we got something to eat and a roof over our head.
Carol, you said in one of your presentations that you needed 120 years to be out of that cycle. Why is that?
Therefore, it's a formula in social science when you analyze how people get out of poverty by measuring the access to education and health. Therefore, Chile have a lot of proof in the Latin American region that 40% of the Chilean people get out of poverty. However, and the rest is still with no access to good quality education and healthcare. And they measure the level of social mobility of a girl who was born, in my case, in extreme poverty. It will take 180 years to basically come to terms or freedom to access to your own necessity. And that's been measured by the quality of education, the ability to communicate, your ability to read, the ability to obtain your own job or create your own job. Therefore, the United Nations measurements of poverty, development, and human development, and the OCDE, where Chile is part of it, provide all this data. That way we can be compared with other countries. Therefore, we're still very, very behind a human development point of view, because education and health is basically private driven rather than a public service as a human right.
You in Chile studied for being a nurse technician. How was your experience? Because you work with Caritas Chile and you went to Temuco. How was that?
Well, it wasn't never a conscious decision. I was prepared myself to be an physical education teacher. However, I have a health problem. When I was 17, I have to have a surgery on my breast. Therefore, in that case, all my possibility to be a physical education teacher went off, because I couldn't really provide the physical strength. And in that case, I saw a nurse and I want to become a paramedic. In that case, I didn't have any money to study. My score to get to university was so low that it wasn't really an option. None of my family members never went to university. However, I always have a very strong, driven attitude towards helping other people. I was basically a part of the church at 14 years old. I knew that I want to help people. Therefore, being nursing technician will allow me to help people, especially sick people. I went to Caritas Chile, and since then I belong to a group of missionaries who actually travel around the country to help poor people. Despite all the differences, when I was just 18, I have a house with a toilet. My parents have a business and we have our own car. Therefore, even though I was within the poverty area, my family especially was very, very successful in getting along with life. And therefore, I went to, at 18 years old, went to travel right south of Chile, the Región La Araucanía, and with Mapuche. It was a lot of tribes there. And I went to help through the Catholic Church. And since then, I've been doing that. Now I'm nearly 50. Now that marked my life. It's the first time I saw a lake, volcanoes, nature. I really thought God presented to me. And at that time, I want to be a nun, but I become a nurse. And since then, I got a philosophy of life, which everything I do scientifically, politically, economically, is always helping others.
That experience changed your perspective of life, or it was something natural? What do you think?
To be honest with you, I never basically referred to this specific experience as a change moment. I believe that it's presenting part of a flow or part of what, in my case, I believe in God. Therefore, I believe that this supreme being is showing me the next step towards loving your life, loving your existence. Therefore, I didn't see it as a change. I thought it was part of my life. And when I returned to my home, which has been very sheltered, they were very surprised why I want to become a nun, since I have all the possibility to form a family, to do whatever I wanted, and it wasn't really a strategy for the family for me to create a future. However, I was very determined, and definitely since then I decided as a girl that I want to be independent, I want to be traveling, and I want to make my own decisions.
And with these words, my friends, we are going to our next song and we'll come back with this beautiful story and with our beautiful guest, Carol Hullin. So stay tuned. Hey, friends, we are back. You're listening to 88.5 FM and you're listening to your favorite show, Passion Fruit on Air. We are so lucky. We are interviewing in this moment Carol Hullin, who has an impressive career in health informatics. However, her story is amazing and can inspire all of us. So we were talking about her experience in south of Chile, working with the community there. And I know now that Carol, since then, is related to that area. So your heart is always in Temuco and their people. I'm correct?
Yes, you are very correct. I'm actually very involved and engaged with the whole region of the Araucanía. I was based in Temuco for the last couple of years, and since then I've actually got a center of research there, which I'm committed to have community engagement with real scientific evidence, especially to bring the gap between developed countries and developing.
After that experience with Caritas Chile in Temuco, you received an invitation from an uncle who was living in Australia, and you accepted that. And again, your life changed a lot.
Well, to be honest with you, it wasn't really an invitation. It was really a desperation.
Okay.
I was very in a lot of trouble in Chile because I couldn't ask for any options, real option for me, my own development. I actually started to work in the Hospital Parroquial de San Bernardo, which is very near the city. But through that shift work, I got assaulted. Therefore, I got very desperate on looking for the option. And when I went back home, I explained the situation. It was very traumatic to me, but nobody believed me. They said, "No, you're making this up." In the end, I just didn't see any option. It was a lot of mediocrity. Therefore, my mother said, "Darling, do whatever you want to really you got my support." Therefore, in the hospital, they're asking paramedics to spine because Chile was discovered by Spanish troops a long time ago. Therefore, they have a lot of agreements between countries. Therefore, I went home to get the form signed, and my mother said, "No, wait, you're not going to spine because you don't know anyone in spine, but you do have an uncle in Australia." And I did remember a few times my family, my uncle have visited Chile, but I couldn't remember very well. But I did know that my brother tried for a couple of years to apply, and it was a lot of paperwork through the Australian embassy. Therefore, I basically say to my mom, "Look, I will apply without hoping anything. But if it doesn't work, I'm happy to go to Spain because I can speak Spanish and they give me basically the green card. They give me a lot of benefit because I work in healthcare." At the time, I had nearly 2 years of experience. Therefore, I wasn't really a new graduate. I had a lot of options in Spain. Wherever my mother put me in contact, in those times in Chile was many people don't have telephone. Therefore, I had to ask a very far away neighbor to lend me his phone. And after 2 years, I had to pay for the phone call. It was very expensive to call to Australia at that time. Therefore, exactly. Therefore, I wasn't really an invitation. It wasn't really a formality. It was really a desperation moment in my life. I wasn't really looking for a change. I was looking to survive. And in that sense, the Australian Embassy basically in 21 days gave me a permanent resident visa because I was within the professional they were asking for at that time. Therefore, I was very fortunate. I come over, I stay with my family, whatever. I'm still very much like a nun. I would like to go to Mass every day. I was very religious at the time. I think fate had really allowed me to be alive. In that sense, Australia, they're not very much like that. Therefore, I lived with them only 6 weeks. and then an English teacher rescued me, and then my life was transformed. Since then, I never looked back.
No, even that, did you have some bad times? Of course, as an immigrant, we all have. What was the most difficult situation here in Australia?
It's fascinating because even though it was very hard, difficult, complex, I never really have a bad experience. I thought was part of the process. And remember, I'm 50 years old now. I really don't see anything bad because I'm a woman of faith as well. Therefore, the experience was very complex. I love my family members. The lifestyle was very different. I felt many times very low in the sense that where I come from, when you actually go to the toilet, you never put the toilet paper inside the toilet bowl, otherwise you block all the system because the sewerage system is not very good. Therefore, when I arrived to Australia, the most significant and impacting part for me as a woman is that I didn't have the habit to put the paper toilet inside the bowl. Therefore, many times I would look for a bag or somewhere to put it outside, and people look at me in a very weird form. And that was really challenging for me to break my own habits. I think it took me at least 5 years to learn the language, learn the culture, respect the difference, because even though I love my country, but it's very limited in culturally because 99% of people there are Christian. In Australia, it's not the case. English is the main language, despite having more than 100 languages maybe around. Therefore, it was a very challenging time for me as a human being, asking many questions, but never doubted of my background, of my value system. And the family was really a central part for me.
And I can see through your story that you have been resilient your whole life. And Carol, why did you decide to continue in the nursing field? Why you didn't stop being nurse technician?
It was really a necessity. I have worked very much with a lot of people. I take care of patients for 20 years. From the beginning, as you very well know, probably everyone, a nurse technician dedicate themselves to give hygiene, clean up all the feces, clean up urine, clean up. Basically, you're a cleaner. Very little critical thinking. I'm always question the system. I go, why we don't have more time with our patients? Why we are basically don't have time to talk to the family members? Why I'm not educating these people? My knowledge was so limited that I was very hungry to know more. However, since I arrived to Australia, I needed a roof. I needed food. And slowly I recognized that I can really create my own pathway. And that pathway was really not verbally written or verbally described. I just observed my English teacher, a Scottish woman, Jean Parker. Then she was a minister of a church. She was a teacher. She had 2 children. She was very independent. I thought, wow, definitely I can make it. And she was very kind to me to show me some of the very basic values about resilience, about being honest with yourself, loving yourself, taking care of your body, especially taking care of your mind. I think I learned because our English was very limited between each other, but it was the body language about you see the actions of loving, of caring. You showed me the phone when she see me sad. She said, you can call your parents. Therefore, I was very young. I was in my early 20s, but I really saw the power of love by actions, not by always talking, oh my God, I love you so much. I maybe never heard that word as such, but I really saw the actions that were really loving and caring. Therefore, my mind was telling me that I can be an independent woman by educating myself. And my uncle was very wise. When I left his house with a lot of respect, he said, Carol, I've been here many years. And the people I've really seen successful is the people who study, the people who dedicate only to work and earn money. They really don't really happy. And I'm very grateful for that advice of my uncle as well, because I did follow that advice. And until now, I'm a mother. I'm still studying. I mean, I got 5 degrees, not because I want the titles. I need to kill my ignorance.
That's great. And 5 titles. That is a great thing. So you never stop. You're very curious. Okay, you received your title as a nurse, and then why you wanted to go to health informatics? What is that? Because now I'm so confused because why you need informatics in your health?
Well, it's fascinating you say that because again, it was really what my experience at the time it presented opportunity. I look after patients. I felt empowered. By the time I was just married, my first marriage, I was very embracing life. I would go to the hospital with my little girl. We're talking about 23 years ago. In the bicycle, my life was very good. And to be honest with you, I was very young. I was 23 when I had my first home in Australia. Then I got married 25. I mean, we're really, really in charge of our destiny with my first husband. And basically, when a computer system was installed in my ward, and they said, now you'd have to take care of the system, I go, well, I'm here to look after patients. The person is first. And some of my team say, well, what about if you prove that computers don't work? Or basically, this is waste of time. Therefore, I spent 3 years investigating and researching about the impact of computer, and eventually I focused on mobile computing when no one was talking about it. I'm talking about 20 years ago. And then I realized that informatics have nothing to do with computers. Informatics is the science of information and how it informs you are about life. Therefore, I recognize that having the data at the point of care, you can really improve health, and also it can avoid to go to the hospital. Therefore, I recognize through the scientific approach that you really need to take care of your health at the point of your life, rather than going to a hospital. Eventually, you don't need a doctor to tell you that you need to drink water every day, that you need to eat fruit, and then your body tells you exactly how you feel healthy. Therefore, I embrace informatics to discover exactly what it means, the ontology of life. You having data, information, and the knowledge, you can change the world. And since then, I never give up.
Carol, I would like to come back after the next song from this point because it's a very sensitive thing, my data, my information, especially in health. Stay tuned, my friends, and we'll come back with Carol. So stay tuned. My friends, we are back. You're listening to 88.5 FM. This is Passion Fruit on Air. I'm Caro, and I hope that you are enjoying this beautiful Wednesday morning. I'm with Carol Hullin. Wow, she has 5 degrees. I think for me, the most important degree that she has is her heart. She just talks love and she cares about people. So for me, she's a master in love. Can I say that? And
Fantastic.
and Carol, tell me, because I'm a big ignorant about data and about what is happening with our data when you visit a doctor. So where my data is going. So how can I use my own data for my own benefit? So can you give us some lights, not some, all the lights, please, and the possibilities that we have now and in the future?
I think the key component is to recognize we are in the digital era where data is everything. Data not only save people's life, but also is creating a digital economy. Therefore, a lot of people outside you, they're very interested in your data. Now, the mechanism to protect your own data have to be guaranteed by the state governments, the federal government, but in some cases it's not the case. Therefore, we have to be careful, especially to inform about the human right you go to protect your own data. Even though some commercial initiative, a lot of lobby in government is actually violating that very, very human rights, basic human right is your data. A very explicit example is like, with a lot of respect, but all human beings to live have to drink water or otherwise you die. But also, every human being to keep alive and healthy and don't have toxins in your system, you need to go to the toilet. And when you go to the toilet, you're releasing something. And usually when you're sick, a healthcare professional will test your urine and will tell you, we said, oh, sorry, maybe your kidney's not working well, maybe your liver. It's certain measurements, it tells you the condition in your human body. Data is the same thing. Sometimes your data is so important because if you're a girl, 30 years old, goes to this specific shopping and pick a specific product, some prediction modeling between big data, it can really create new markets. That is what is happening now. However, when they test your urine, you need to give the consent. In the digital era, some companies are not asking you consent to use your data. Therefore, it's evolving environment. It's something is happening. It's not only one way to do it, but the principle have to keep intact. It means your human dignity have to be respected. And you are in charge of your data. And you have to ask your politicians to make sure they understand that as well.
I think it's so difficult because I think that in general, we are not educated, or in general, it's so hard to understand. For example, I know that in Santiago, for example, that I went to Chile last April, and I went to a shopping center, and they have cameras with face recognition. They know exactly who you are. They can follow you, so they know what you're, as you said, they know what you're buying, they know your taste, so they know exactly the market. And as well, in some supermarket, I'm not seeing here, but in US and in Chile as well, when you go to a supermarket, you take off one product, the computer system is measuring how many products are on demand, if they have some in the storage or not, but at the end is our consumption behavior there. So I love it. I love information. However, how much personal information I would like to share. And as well, I've seen, not here or maybe everywhere, I've seen that politicians are not educated in this field. Even myself, I think that I'm, as a journalist, I love this digital era. However, I'm not protecting in a smart way my data. So what are your recommendations?
I think you definitely went to the point. You need to educate yourself. It's exactly the same manner. I don't know if you remember when we're trying to get rid of smoking. Yes. Education is the first tool you go to change the human behavior. Therefore, yes, it's a lot of, I dedicate myself now to educate at the local level, national level, international. Therefore, my education are always online, trying to create some common sense. Really, you don't have to get a degree to understand that you're protecting data, you're protecting your future. Why? Because if you don't allow yourself to be respected as a person and they always see you as a client, the moment you don't have money, you're not a client. Therefore, the system starts to abuse you. Therefore, ontologically speaking means, we're talking about philosophy, the moment you basically give up your right as a person, you're basically allowing the system to treat you as a client all the time. Therefore, if you don't consume, you don't exist. If you're sick, you don't exist. If you're uneducated and ignorant, you don't exist. Therefore, if you want to really taste the autonomy and self-determination of your destiny, you need to educate yourself. And today, the beautiful part of this century is that you don't need to go formal class to understand that you need to protect yourself. You got the right to be defended.
Wow. And Carol, with that sentence, we are going now to our next song. You're listening to 88.5 FM. My friends, we are with Carol Hullin, and straight to the point, Carol, I don't want to miss any minute with you. We were talking about how can we care about our personal data, and you have been a global strategic advisor of the Latin American Digital Innovation Center. How can we link that with the management of our data?
Therefore, my work is to provide examples and real projects that way people can gain this experience and the skills and the knowledge. Therefore, rather than going to a lecture theater and meet with ministers where I used to, as you know, I was the advisor for the World Bank for many years, and then I traveled over 67 countries. But now I dedicate in very independent way to have projects with social impact and show them what is the difference between treating this human being as a person legally, economically, socially, and politically versus treating this person as a client within marketing, within economy, within a market. Differentiating those two, people tend to respect those two worlds because they're very important for productive purposes. Therefore, privately development and investment, but with a public good in mind, because the government, what it's supposed to be doing for centuries, is not doing it. The government, unfortunately, when you have an army person, a general, that is supposed to protect the country, they're really protecting their own pocket. It's a lot of corruption. Also in the church, we're supposed to have priests and supposed to be a trustworthy profession protecting you, but it's not the case. It's abusing for centuries. Therefore, the center of research we're using in Chile is going to open in Australia in the next couple of years, and that's why I'm here physically now. And I'm very happy to get interviewed by you or anyone to share all this excitement project. And also, in 5 years' time, we're already working to open this center in China.
Carol, you're supporting girls. You are empowering them. Why? What have you seen? Why girls need to be empowered in this moment?
Right now, in 2019 to 2020, if you want to call it, it's these 2 decades. I have shown that political policies and public policy are really male-orientated. I mean, if we do an analysis in depth, we have used artificial intelligence, we have used millions of articles. In reality, we have got an absence of women's thinking, paradigms, philosophies in the public good. Therefore, today with the technology we got available, we can make these changes, but not waiting 100 years. We don't have to go to the streets and our children get killed to make sure this change. Therefore, we have done a lot of analysis globally. United Nations have really recognized too for a couple of years now that if you don't involve women in leadership post, your country definitely will go forward. Therefore, it's not about having, with a lot of respect, we're not about genitals. What differentiates a woman as a man. We're talking about a way of thinking. If you think about it, women are really the only human being who carried a baby. And some women having a uterus, not having a baby physically, but they adopt one or they love the nephew or the niece, they're still women. Therefore, I'm trying to say this is not physical change. It's not physical transformation. It's a way of living that women have to be involved in an active role. We just don't have to be helping your husband or helping your brother or helping your nephew to get up there to change the system. Today we have to be next to them. They want us. They need us to be next one. Why? Because we want equity, we want justice, and we want to be loved. Today the system doesn't love us.
And what happened with the Aboriginal people?
Well, it's fascinating because this historically, because the progress of human beings over the last centuries has been very much about being productive, being the growth of economy. However, our native tribes, our native groups, our native blood have shown over the centuries and centuries that if you don't look after your ecosystem, you're gone. The climate change has brought a lot of political thinking, a lot of political strategies, but in reality is what always our Aboriginals have telling us. We don't know how to listen sometimes. In my case, as an Aboriginals from Chile, definitely my grandfather, to protect us, really stole the history of our family. I don't know the history in details. I'm just now discovering that, and obviously I'm committed to show that for my children, because when the natives understand the ecosystem, the land, the cosmovision, how they call it the Mapuche. It's very, very interesting that they got the answers to our survival, even the data. if you think about it, they got a lot of symbolism about the importance of the sun, the importance of the air, the importance of the water. All those elements, they're essential to our survival. And today with data, again, we can create this model of care. And that's what are we doing in the center of the digital innovation Latin American. I mean, that's what are we doing. We work with Mapuche, we work with Aboriginal from the north, we're working as well with Peru to maintain the language, to make visible the truth they've been handling from centuries.
Carol, what are your plans? Are you visiting us? How can we contact you? How can we follow your ideas? If we have more doubts, how can we talk to you, go to a presentation or attend one of your classes? Tell us.
There are many ways, and basically it's not only one way because depend of your reality. Obviously, this interview is a good beginning, and I hope you interview me many, many times. I'm very happy to share my experience, my perspective, my visions. But the plan, firstly, is to collaborate. I don't compete with anyone. If you're someone, for example, in the north of Chile, they said, oh my God, you copied our idea. And when they see my first publication come 25 years ago, and they say, well, really, it's the idea of everyone. The difference is your action. Therefore, one way you can really get engaged with me is through the website of citla.org. At the moment, it's in Spanish because obviously we're focusing a lot in Chile and Latin America. Within that framework, we do have an alliance with CETEP, which is psychiatry. If you're very interested in mental health, you just go to the website. You can send me an email. It's carol.hullin@citla.org. And also, if you don't get a quick response, it's contacto@citla.org because my whole team is very attentive to respond quickly. In Australia, I'm here for a little while because, as I mentioned before, we're going to create the Center of Digital Innovation in Australia in order to bring scientists from here, methods from here, methodology from here, from Australia, to Chile and Latin America. And also you can always see all the videos you can find as you very well research this great journalist. That's the way she found me. That's the way we're collaborating. And we're planning a visit to Chile in April and to do some clases magistrales. That's the way we call it. Some engagement in big time that where a lot of girls, families, and also authorities can see that this can happen with them or without them. We're changing the world.
Beautiful. And I've seen you talking in TEDx in Bogota, in other places as well. So you are willing to attend or participate in those kind of presentations and discussion.
Definitely, I'm very, very committed. I mean, obviously, as I say before, my experience that I don't have a strategic planning, but definitely believe in people, believe in love, and believe in a very disciplined process. And that's what I'm hoping to visit Perth, visit Sydney, visit Northern Territory. The idea is to engage anyone who doesn't feel that they got hope. We want to give hope.
Beautiful. And now the last question, because we're running out of time. Really, you want to be the president of Chile 2030?
To be honest with you, it's a pathway I declare to inspire a lot of women, girls in poverty. It's an interview they made me in Chile, and I say yes. I want to be a president on the 2030. It's a vision, and I'm working very hard every day. Firstly, to have integrity, credibility, and a lot of love to give with a lot of people don't believe in public good.
Beautiful. Karen Hullin, thank you so much for this interview. My heart is full of love, good vibes, and with plans. I hope to have you here in Perth. So I hope to start moving right now all my energy and contacts to bring you here. So my friends, if you're listening to this interview and you want to help me in that, help me. I need a hand, and we can bring Carol to Perth.
Fantastic. Adios. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, Carol. Thank you. Bye, my friends. Enjoy, as always say, breathe, love, and take care of yourself. See you next week. Bye.